everybody, it's Sunday, the morning after UFC 199. It's me, Ed Carbajal, mixed martial arts analyst for page2sports.com and Front Proof Media. And you can follow me on Twitter at Carbazal. And this is the Carbazal MMA podcast for a really big weekend after a lot of significant things happened in the realm of combat sports, not just MMA. Obviously, everybody's heard about Muhammad Ali's passing. He was in the hospital and dealing with respiratory issues. And then overnight, Friday night, a lot of people woke up to the news Saturday morning of Muhammad Ali's passing. So if you... I'm a Gen Xer, and I grew up idolizing the guy like... a lot of people did. I was telling my girlfriend as we were watching the news how I used to carry around the action figure, not a doll, an action figure. I want to say it was about it's like 10 inches or something like that. It was bigger. I'm remembering it bigger probably than it is because I was smaller, but you know, it was him with the black and white trunks and the boxing gloves on, and I used to carry it around. I was actually fortunate enough to see his last fight, which I believe was in '81. So it's really sad when 2016 in general has been pretty sad for me because just the passing of so many iconic figures that have been present my entire life. You think about how the year started out: David Bowie, Prince, Alan Rickman. I know that's not a big deal to some people if you don't know who he is, but for me, he was a bad guy in Die Hard. He played Hans Gruber, and then I kind of followed everything else he did. So that was sad news for me because I actually quote that film a lot. It's a Christmas tradition in my house. We watch Die Hard and Lethal Weapon, but I'm straying from just where I'm leading up to is actually the passing of Ali. So, I mean, he wasn't just a big deal in boxing. You know, he did a lot. Obviously, everybody knows about his civil rights stuff and all the stuff he did for, religion, as far as breaking barriers for race and just any type of bigotry and ignorance. So, definitely somebody, that's going to be missed. And when he lit the torch for the Olympics in '96. That's just a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I remember growing up with. So that's why I don't have a guest today, because I got a lot to say because a lot of stuff happened this weekend. But obviously, if we're on a journey of the weekend together, it started with that, and then everybody was getting ramped up for UFC. If you're an MMA fan, anyway, in boxing, I mean, I know boxing had a big night too. And if you go to frontproofmedia.com, you're going to see a lot of coverage of that. Daniel Zaldivar, who's been on the podcast a few times, was covering that for us at Front Proof Media. And please go there and check out his stuff, his coverage of the event. He's actually going to do a really good write-up on Muhammad Ali. So, rest in peace, Muhammad Ali. And thank you for everything you helped make men, as far as machismo and all that goes for us Mexicans. I mean, you didn't grow up before you've even found MMA. Boxing was your only combat sport that was as close as it gets to real fighting. And just as I lead into UFC 199, they actually did an Ali tribute. And I was sitting at a bar watching it, and when they were showing it, a lot of people were like, well, what are they showing this for? What do new MMA fans, obviously, and when you go to a bar and watch a sport like that in that type of environment, I mean, you're gonna have as much fun as much success hearing things you want to hear as if you were going out to a club to meet a nice girl. You're not going to meet a nice girl at a club, but anyway. So people were making comments like, why are they trying to make jump on the hype train of Ali's passing? This is not boxing. But you got to remember, Dana White was a boxing promoter. A lot of the licensing committees that allow for combat sports are the same ones that do it for boxing. And I actually tweeted it when I heard the guy next to me make the comment. I wasn't going to engage. I was there to watch the event, like with my girlfriend and friends and stuff. So he made the comment, and then I said, well, if I just put it out on Twitter. I was like, if you don't know why they're doing this, just do a search of Muhammad Ali and Antonio Inoki. I mean, that predates the UFC's first event where they tried to do a style versus style. And I know Gene LaBelle did the same thing back in the day too. So it's if you're asking why they did that, the influence is there for just fighting, trying to fight the best guys in the world, or fighting in general. I mean, the whole arena culture and combat sports and people. I mean, it goes back to the original Olympics and the pancration. I mean, you can look at all this stuff up. I don't need to tell it to you. But so that's what it had to do with it. And I mean, if you don't think the man, I mean, his face is one. I remember reading something where they said the two most recognizable faces, or they were listing. It was in the 90s. I read it. The most recognizable faces in the world, they listed like Jesus, Mickey Mouse, and Muhammad Ali's face was around the top of that list. So if you're wondering why no one's jumping on anything, to try to get clickbait or whatever the case may be, it's because the guy has been around for most people's lifetimes and somehow influenced the way that they approach a challenge. So that's why the UFC did that. I mean, combat sports is all about challenges, but I mean, life in general, you're challenged every day. I mean, you're challenged to wake up in the morning and a lot of the speeches Muhammad Ali made as far as being a positive motivator were along the lines of just, believing in oneself and believing your beliefs and just following through to realize your dreams and stuff like that. So that's all I wanted to say about that, and but that's how I'm leading into UFC 199. So, if you read I put up the preview just of the co-main and main event for the event. We don't have a lot of help over at for MMA at Front Proof Media. I used to collaborate with Chris Asbrock for the MMA Forethoughts I did on Page 2 Sports, and I brought that over to Front Proof Media because we're trying to build up the MMA channel there. And so I don't do the whole card or the main card like I used to. I try to grab the significant fights and do a quick prediction on how they might. So I was half right on how they went down. I was actually impressed that I was so accurate with Dominic Cruz's win. If you go back and read it, I mean, I saw him winning by decision all 5 rounds, and that's exactly what he did. And there was a few times where it seemed like he was in trouble, but I mean, the funny thing about that whole fight is that one of the press conferences, Dominic Cruz and Uriah Faber were in their exchange, and Cruz asked him how he evolved, and he pointed out literally what Uriah Faber's game plan seems to always be. And he said, what do you have? You have your overhand right, and you go for the guillotine. And that's exactly how I see, when he wins. If he drops a guy, I mean, he's got a rear naked choke, but usually when he does it, it's because he dropped someone with the overhand right and then ran up and got the choke from behind. So, and then I don't remember where. You guys will have to check forums or news, or I'll probably look it up after the fact, but I remember hearing something. It's almost like a curse that Faber had. Like, he just doesn't do well when he's on pay-per-view. On TV, he's when he fights on Fox and Fox Sports, the fight nights or whatever, even on Fight Pass, it's just like he's a star. But every time he seems to be on a pay-per-view, it just doesn't seem like the stars are in his favor. But I mean, it went to decision, so I always feel like even if a fighter loses by decision, whether it be dominant or split, I mean, they shouldn't take the loss too bad. Like the week before Aljamain Sterling, when he lost split decision, he didn't seem like he handled it too bad, and he's young. So, both guys, I mean, they definitely put on, that was definitely a great fight. I mean, I loved it. Dominic Cruz walked out limping at the end after he spoke to Joe Rogan. So I'm hoping, and he had his foot wrapped up, but he obviously didn't move like he had any issues, but I just hope that whatever the limp was isn't another tear or something. I mean, only because obviously he's sat out so long twice for really bad injuries that he had to have surgery, and for someone that's as dominant a champion as he's been when he can fight, it would be a real it hurt the sport to lose a guy like Dominic Cruz. So congrats to Dominic Cruz, man. Great fight. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest you check that fight out. I mean, that UFC 199 was just talk about, like I said, significant things happening over the weekend. Dan Henderson, who was the underdog when he fought Hector Lombard. And I'm somebody, I know I've said it on here before, I never count out Dan Henderson. But, and people were sitting around me and asking me, I was just like, I said, I just don't count him out. But they're like, oh, but he's the underdog and he's old. And I said, I just can't. It's just one of those things that are force of habit that you shouldn't do. But last night I was so glad that I didn't, because, obviously, and something a lot of people said that actually, so maybe that's where the thought came from. If he made it out of the first round, which he almost didn't, he was going to be able to finish Lombard, and that's exactly what happened. He made it. He scraped through the first round because he almost got finished. Thank God Herb Dean didn't stop it, because he was able to come back and win it. So, and then I don't know if he retired officially. It's weird. Again, I was in a bar, so I couldn't hear what he was saying, and then trying to read one of the TVs had closed captioning, and I was trying to read, and everybody, one of the guys we were sitting with just ran his mouth so much to the point that I was just like, I'm just not going to try to. I just need to see it and see what's happening. So, and then that was a fight that stuck out for me. I only caught the main card of the pay-per-view, so I'm sorry if I missed everything else. I have it recorded, and I still got to watch the other fights. But obviously, and then the main event, man. I mean, in the preview where I put up on Front Proof Media, obviously I picked Cruz, right, and I had Rockhold picked to win just because I like Michael Bisping, number one. I actually pointed that out in the article that he's probably one of the toughest guys in the sport, if not the toughest. But the amount of damage he takes in his recent fights is what had me concerned. Plus the history that they already had with Rockhold submitting him early in in the second round of their last fight before 199. So I had Rockhold picked to win. A lot of people had Rockhold picked to win, and I'm pretty sure Bisping was a huge one. He was like negative 600 as the underdog. And from what I saw in Rockhold's face, and it seemed like he admitted it too in the post-fight interview, he really took Bisping light, and I guess because of the late notice, and these were all the reasons that I had him not picked to win as well. Like, late notice pick, he's already been beaten by the guy. And then the thing about the damage that he takes when they fight. I mean, even if you look at the hype videos, his face is bloodied up, and a lot of the stuff with him yelling. And I mean, the guy's just a warrior and a beast. And then to have him come out and finish Rockhold in the first round like that, finish him convincingly, knocked him out. Rockhold won the belt in December. This was his first title defense, and he lost. He wasn't happy about it in a post-fight press conference. He obviously he wants a rematch, and but Bisping is happy to fight Jacare. I mean, he said he'd fight anybody, and damn well that he will. So, I mean, I that's why MMA is the best sport out there ever. For me, I really don't watch anything else. I don't watch baseball. Sometimes I'll watch football because I live in Jersey, and you kind of have to living around here. It's like a requirement if you want to have any friends at all in life. And plus it's, that's like a cold weather sport, and it's usually cold in this damn state. As I record this, it's like storming outside. I mean, we had a nice day yesterday, but anyway, I'm digressing. To have Bisping, his career started with the Ultimate Fighter, and to have him come up and fight as many fights as he's fought and won and lost, and the way he sells the fights, I mean, somebody pointed out a really cool fact that as of right now, you got 3 guys holding titles that are also hosting UFC tonight. That's pretty amazing. And I really do hope, obviously Dominic Cruz is doing well defending it. Like I said, I hope he's not injured. And Michael Bisping, I mean, he realized something that he's been chasing after, that even at a point that he was just happy to be fighting. I remember he said that after his loss to Rockhold, when he fought. And then when he fought Anderson Silva. But when he wins, he gets so motivated that obviously if he's winning, he believes in himself and he can win a title, and he did it last night. And this all just comes back around to the stuff that I said Ali has influenced people doing. And it's just like the weekend, if you're a fight fan in general, this weekend was a big weekend for you. So my hat is off to Michael Bisping. I mean, he's just an amazing individual, and congratulations to him. And one of the sponsors of our early episodes of this podcast, another podcast, Slaphead and the Giraffe. I mean, they're based out of the UK, so you should check them out when they do their post fight for this, because I'm sure they're happy as hell. So, and we have to kind of focus on that, because the thing of it, the reason why I'm doing this in the morning like this is, and I'm sorry I'm stuttering, because it just bothers me that, so by now everybody's heard about the news with Ariel Helwani and the MMA Fighting staff being escorted out after the Cruz Faber fight, and apparently it's because or a speculation is that he broke news regarding the Brock Lesnar announcement they made. There was a couple of announcements last night that I was actually excited for, one that I'm going to get to in a minute. But you can't let the politics of combat sports take away from what these guys put out there in the cage. And as a fight fan and somebody that's trying to cover the sport like I am, it bothers me that stuff like that. I don't care. Like, I really don't care what happens outside of the cage. I really don't. I don't care about, I don't care about Paige Van Zant's Dancing with the Stars stuff. I really don't care about any. If it doesn't have to do with the sport, then I don't. That's why you won't see me write about stuff like, I don't care if Conor McGregor buys a new watch. There's just things that don't matter, and something, the thing that happened with the MMA Fighting crew and Helwani and Esther Lynn and all those people that got escorted out and received from what seems to be a lifetime ban from covering the UFC, it is a little disturbing, because if you're reporting the news, I mean, that's all reporters want to do, is be the go-to guy to get information out to the masses. And usually, it does matter in the business side of things if you get it first and you put it out there first. And so there's two sides to every story. So maybe the problem that Helwani had with Fox and now apparently with the UFC is that he rushes the information out too soon. Sometimes it's like you ever have good news you want to give somebody and then someone else gives it to someone and you're kind of like, well, I wanted to tell, like that seems to be what's happening. And it's petty. It's stupid to care about that, because either way, MMA Fighting and Front Proof Media and websites that cover the sport, small and big, new, and guys like me, it's good promotion. You're getting free promotion by people talking about what's going on in your sport and your industry. So why would you tell them not to do that? And maybe if it's overly opinionated, I get where you can get sensitive about it, but still, it's still publicity. I mean, the sport grows because of people like the people that got escorted out, like Helwani and the photographer that Esther Lynn, who takes awesome photos. I don't know. There's two sides to every story, so I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more on Monday when Helwani does his 5-hour MMA hour. So I guess I'll have to listen to that. But I mean, like you, I want to know what happened. I want to hear what happened, and I'm sure we'll hear more stuff. But I mean, the MMA is the UFC is the biggest promotion in the sport, but it is not MMA. You know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of fights out there to cover. There's plenty of with Bellator. I mean, you have Bellator World Series of Fighting, all these promotions that are growing. I mean, and they're trying to race each other to be bigger and better. But I mean, it's not like he's going to not have news to report. Or MMA Fighting, a lot of people go to them as their main source to do it on other websites. So they still have their connections and stuff. There's no reason to get overly sensitive about it. And Jonathan Snowden even said this is not the first time they've banned people. They've banned people from Bleacher Report and ESPN and whatever. But the news still gets out there. That gets out there. So have at it. But don't let it take away from what happened. I mean, last night was a great night for Dan Henderson and Michael Bisping and Dominic Cruz and all the other winners that fought last night. And UFC 199 was a really good card. And it just bothers me that I woke up in the morning and more people are focusing on that over what happened, especially the main event. I mean, that's a long time coming for Michael Bisping. So to have someone tweet what's happening to them take away from that kind of bothers me. But if you put yourself in the shoes of the person that's affected by it, and you're someone in the business of reporting, you have to put the information out there too of what's happening. You got to pull back the curtain if your job is to do that. So it's something that's obviously going to open up. But I just wanted to record this because I just feel like let's not overlook Michael Bisping, Dan Henderson, and Dominic Cruz's hard work from last night. So congratulations to them. One of the things that were announced last night too, obviously the Brock Lesnar thing with his to be determined opponent for UFC 200. I am going to be there. Talking about credentials, whether or not I get the press credentials is probably slim, since we're still I'm doing it on behalf of a growing site. I think they want people to have like 500 views for people they credential, but you'd have to check in on that. I'm not sure. Anyway. So they announced Brock Lesnar and his to-be-determined opponent. Rumors that we're hearing over at Front Proof are that it could be Mark Hunt. Shane Carwin was very public about it on Twitter, saying he hopes it's him, and he's putting it out there that they bring him back. That's just to bring in fans. I mean, UFC 200. Me and MMA Nick talked about it the first time he was on this podcast. That card is a done deal for us. We're ready to see it. It's great. I didn't need McGregor to be on it, let alone him facing Nick Diaz when he's in shape. I mean, it's probably more certain that Diaz will win, even though he's such a cool dude. He realizes that what anyone can got in a fight, because that's how the fight game goes, as we saw last night with Bisping winning as a huge underdog. But great weekend in combat sports. So, but I was talking about the Brock Lesnar announcement. And then if you don't have Fight Pass and you're an old school fan of MMA, you're gonna at least want it for this month, June 17th. The EFN Fedor Emelianenko is fighting on that card, and he's fighting Fabio Maldonado. So when Fedor came back in Bellator or /Ryzen, that New Year's Eve event, he fought as his comeback fight Jarpinder Singh, who a lot of people hadn't heard of. He's from kickboxing. I mean, he's fought in a Super Fight League, which is an Indian MMA promotion, if I'm not mistaken. You can catch a lot of their stuff on YouTube. I think they have a YouTube channel exclusively for that. So, but on Fight Pass, that's the main event for the EFN on Fight Pass, June 17th. And when I saw that, I was like alone in the bar excited about that. Because obviously Fabio Maldonado used to fight in the UFC. He was kind of a contender there. He's a tough dude. And this is a legit comeback fight for Fedor. The Singh one in Ryzen, that was definitely like, a warm-up. I forgot what Jimmy Smith had an awesome quote. Can't throw him another softball. That's what he said. And this is not a softball. So I guess he's doing his one contract thing where he can fight wherever he wants, which I don't blame him for liking the freedom. And with his name and notoriety in the sport, it's good that he's coming back and fighting another fighter that people, hardcore fans, know. So, the fact that it's on Fight Pass, people like to connect puzzle pieces and play sleuths out there. So, are we going to see him in the UFC soon? Because he's on a UFC Fight Pass event? I hope so. I mean, if he beats Maldonado and coming in the way he's coming in, although I mean the top tier in the heavyweight division at the UFC is dangerous. All those guys are dangerous, and obviously even Werdum, who lost at 198, being is one of the last guys, is one of Emelianenko's losses. So that'd definitely be something people would want to see. It'd be a big money fight if they tried to throw him high up in the ranks in there. But we'll see. I mean, he was gone for a while. His first fight wasn't much of anything at Ryzen. And then this will be the fight to determine what happens. And if we see him in the UFC, man, I would love to see him at the Garden. If he wins against Maldonado, and then they do the UFC 205 in Madison Square Garden. It's 205, right? In Madison Square Garden, and to have that fight on there, that would make that one of the greatest cards ever in my life. And I'd probably explode right in Madison Square Garden, like physically from excitement, just explode. Anyway, I guess I got everything off my chest. I had to get off. So sorry this is late. You'll probably hear this. This will be uploaded Sunday night, as I still have to write the article about 199, but I just wanted to get something up for this week and talk about the things that were disturbing me, because this is my podcast, first and foremost. So if you like to listen to it and the guests I've mentioned, go to theblogboardjungle.com, and you can find all the podcast episodes there, along with this one. And if you'd like to donate to the podcast, please go to theblogboardjungle.com and use any of the Amazon links to make your Amazon purchases there. And if you take any supplements to improve your output or whatever, I have links on it as well. That would, when you make your purchases, you'll be helping out the podcast as well. It doesn't cost you anything extra. As far as MMA and combat sports and boxing analysis go, please check out frontproofmedia.com. And you'll find myself and Daniel Zaldivar doing his boxing coverage on there. And again, follow me on Twitter at Carbazel. And we'll catch you next week. Rest in peace, Muhammad Ali. Thank you guys for listening. 15 of you or whoever likes to listen and download this, I really do appreciate it. And it's just fun to talk about this stuff. So if you have any questions or comments, by all means, comment on the website, or I upload this through Spreaker, so you can comment on there too if you're on Spreaker. And enjoy your upcoming week, and enjoy the fights in the future. And we'll see what happens in the coming days. UFC 200 coming soon, so I'll keep you guys posted on anything I hear, because I am going to be there. I'm going to make the open workouts and all that stuff. I mean, they open it up free and open to the public. Fight week is such a fun week. I was there last July, so I'll definitely keep you guys posted. Just follow me on Twitter at Carbazel, and I'll check you guys out next week. Bye-bye.